What is up? It's your boy, Mahoney, back at it again with another video that took longer than it should have been. Anyway, today we are going to be ranking every single Dark Souls 1 Remastered boss there is. The rules for this tier list are: number 1, we are ranking them on how good the gameplay of the bosses are, so we are not ranking them by difficulty. And number 2, I'm only ranking bosses, so the Hydra does not count. Anyway, enough chatting, let's get into the ranking. Surprise, surprise, the worst boss in Dark Souls, the Bed of Chaos. This boss really took a turn for the worse because of its horrendous design. You got bad hitboxes, undodgeable moves, holes in the floor that appear out of nowhere, and a god-awful runback. You would think it's not that bad, right? Hell no, it's just a tree you have to cut its 2 nut sacks off and kill a bug, while maneuvering through holes in the ground while you have to worry about its sweep attack throwing you across the map. And like, what the hell even is that? The only saving grace about this boss is that it's the only boss that saves your progress. I can't even imagine how terrible this boss would be without that. But even with that feature, it's still a massive dookie stain in my underwear. The boss is so terrible that Miyazaki himself apologized for making this atrocious mess. This little ball sack just loves smacking you across the map into the black abyss below you, and also forces you to do a parkour jump just to kill a little helpless bug that just wails around in defeat. And all that it takes is one singular hit to take this atrocity down. Coming in at our second worst boss, it's Ceaseless Discharge. The youngest and only boy of the Witch of Izalith stands vigil in front of his deceased sisters laying on an altar, endlessly discharging lava out of his butt crack. One of the saddest bosses in Dark Souls, but ends up to be pretty. Fighting this dude is like sitting on a toilet full of thumbtacks. You enter his boss arena wondering why he isn't attacking you, but as soon as you pick up his sister's armor, he becomes hella mad. You can beat this boss in 2 ways, either fighting him like a Giga Chad up close, where he does an attack that somehow hits you from a mile away, or you can go to the beginning of the arena and cheese him by slashing at his arm until he dies. This boss is so terrible that the game developers had to put in a cheese to beat this guy because of how bad the boss is. He either does an arm attack that has the worst hitboxes in the game, or does a lava spew that takes a good chunk of your health away. I do the cheese way so that I don't have to deal with the stupidity that this boss gives. There's one thing I absolutely hate in Dark Souls, is when you add regular enemies while fighting a boss. There's another thing I hate, it's the goddamn annoying piece of dogs that love to annoy you until you're wiped off the face of the earth. Anyway, this boss is terrible. The very first thing you hope when you enter this boss is hoping that the dogs don't come and gang up on you, or else the dogs will keep attacking you until Capra Demon finishes you off. If you get lucky and kill both of the dogs, which are basically the real boss fight, it's an easy ride from there. Capra Demon will do some basic attacks with his 2 machetes, and it's kind of a mediocre fight. And another bad thing about this boss is the damn size of the area. It's literally 6 feet wide. It's just an alleyway with stairs that lead up to nothing. The boss is weak. There's 2 goddamn dogs, and the arena's tiny. Pretty terrible if I have to say. At our number 23 spot, one of the biggest messes in Dark Souls history, the Centipede Demon. We continue our expedition through the demon ruins in Lost Izalith. Yet again, another terrible boss in this area. We enter this boss seeing a giant centipede come into life, which is pretty spooky, but this boss is poorly made with its buggy centipede limbs trying to punch you. The boss arena is also one of the worst, because you're on a small platform where everywhere is just lava that takes away so much health. This boss is so buggy that you can literally clip him through the wall and cheese him, and then after a few minutes he'll just die. Actually trying to fight him sucks because if you cut one of his limbs off, it turns into a little centipede. And I don't like the way he looks. He looks weird. Pretty terrible. Talk about an absolute snooze fest. The Moonlight Butterfly is the only boss that actually has the potential to put me to sleep. It's just an overall boring boss. She spends around 2 minutes in the air, invincible from melee attacks, firing green lasers that are really easy to avoid. Her moveset is also really easy to memorize. Once it does enough of its attacks, it just rests on the wall. I don't really know why it does this. Totally not a lazy design. Some of the attacks, including the AoE attack, can do some massive damage, but are still way too easy to avoid unless you're really greedy. With its boring moveset, underwhelming gameplay, and the music sounding like your mom singing a lullaby to make you go to bed, it's just a boring boss. This boss is probably one of the easier bosses because of this. This is another one of those bosses that just don't need to be there. Other than lore purposes and guarding a divine ember, there's really no point in this boss. The biggest laughingstock in Dark Souls history never fails to disappoint with this lack of skill needed to kill this boss. This boss has been bullied ever since his existence on Earth. And the people aren't wrong. He clones himself and shoots a ball of energy. That's it. He's pretty much the most mocked boss in the game because of how underwhelming this fight is. He's insanely passive, not giving a damn that you're about to kill him in under 10 hits. The best part about this fight is the cutscene. It's really ominous, just dropping into a giant coffin, looking at a necromancer tinkering away at a skeleton. Such a shame. Coming in at our number 20 spot is the Asylum Demon, or as I like to call it, the Thick Demon. For this boss being the first boss in Dark Souls, it's not that bad. It's a great tutorial boss for players getting a feel for Dark Souls. You start the fight entering a ledge above the demon where you're able to hit a plunging attack, taking away a good chunk of its health. It does some basic moves that are somewhat easy to dodge. The method here is to try and stay behind its behind. If you do this, he's basically cooked since he's so fat. But beware of his butt slam. You wouldn't want to be caught up in all of that area. Pretty good tutorial boss to show new players what they're playing. At our number 19 spot, we have the Stray Demon. This boss is a complete reuse of the Asylum Demon, but has different attacks. You get here by literally breaking through the floor of the Asylum Demon's boss arena. The face looks a little bit different, and that's it. The only bad thing about this boss is that you take guaranteed fall damage, which I don't quite appreciate. Same with the Asylum Demon, it's best to stay behind his thick. Other than new AoE attacks and the boss looking slightly different, it's pretty much just the same but with more of a challenge. Alright, I know that the Stray Demon wasn't a complete ripoff, but this boss, it is frame for frame a direct ripoff from the Stray Demon but looks cooler. It has the same attacks, same moveset, same everything. The only reason I put this boss higher than the Stray Demon is because it looks cooler. It's crazy that a ripoff boss is the best boss in Lost Izalith. Again, in this instance, this boss does not need to be here because there's literally another boss right after this. Other than being the last known demon sorcerer, this boss really doesn't need to be here. Coming in hot, number 17 is the Taurus Demon. Guardian of the Undead Berg Walls, this boss is pretty alright. He's pretty good for being the second boss of the game. He's not that bad compared to the other bosses. Entering this boss, you can fight these two bowmen so that you don't have to worry about them because they're annoying as hell. Then you can bring the Taurus demon to the beginning of the arena, hitting a juicy plunge attack. One of the criticisms I have is the arena. The Taurus demon takes up the width of the arena because it's too big. He can also hit you off the arena, so be careful of that. You can do a plunge and run sort of thing where you keep plunging him until he dies. But even then, pretty alright boss. Oh, okay, time to talk about the femboy. Born a dude, raised as a girl, Gwendolyn comes in at number 16 with her somewhat boring gameplay. After showing Anna Orlando's true colors, we come to this hallway which turns out to be infinitely long, which is pretty cool. Gwendolyn only has 3 moves: the Balls of Death, the Hadouken, and the bow that shoots like a burst assault rifle from Fortnite. There's not really much to this fight. You just gotta remember his moves, and then it's basically an easy ride. And I also don't know why you have to spawn at the bonfire 682 miles from the boss instead of the fire right next to the boss fight. That pissed me off the first time playing this. Now this boss is a mixed opinion. This boss can be really frustrating at points, with guaranteed fall damage, sword magic that is mostly a guaranteed sword up your butt crack, and like I said, regular enemies in a boss fight grind my gears, especially the annoying skeletons that can respawn if you don't have a divine weapon. But Nito sort of balances out this issue, with his AoE attack insta-killing his own minions, which is a massive blessing. But can we talk about the goddamn runback? It's so annoying running through the pitch black trying to dodge these piece of damn skeletons. But the cutscene is one of my favorites. Dropping into a dark cave while seeing Nito emerge from his giant coffin. It's pretty cool. Some cases when I'm hitting Nito, it doesn't go through because his cloak has a weird hitbox. One of the more annoying bosses, but it's fine, I guess. My dumb self forgot to record for the first part of this fight, and I didn't feel like making a new game just to beat that boss again. So yeah, at number 14 we have Crossbreed Priscilla. After getting sucked into the painted world of Aramis, we see Priscilla minding her own business. Again, I can't find any recording of this, so bear with me here. She starts out not aggro, but once you hit her, she becomes invisible. It's pretty fair because you can see her footprints in the snow, which is a great feature to add. Once you hit her, she becomes uninvisible, and then she just starts doing basic attacks. You're able to cut off her tail for Priscilla's dagger, which is a pretty cool feature too. It's an alright boss, in my opinion. Alright, now on to one of the weirdest looking bosses there are, the Gaping Dragon. First time watching this cutscene, I thought I was gonna fight some tiny crocodile thing, but nope! It turned out to be the weirdest looking thing ever. This boss is pretty easy, but if you didn't kill the channeler above, you're gonna have a rough time. An awesome thing about this boss is that you can cut off its tail to get the best weapon in Dark Souls, the Dragon Great Axe, which deals massive amounts of damage. Another little neat thing is when you cut off its tail, you cancel out some of the attacks he does, which is pretty neat. Basically, it slams its mouth at you and does some shuffling attack that can do some pretty heavy damage. Without its gaping mouth, it looks a little weird on the floor, too. Mid-boss, but not that mad. Number 12. We got Setha Scaleless, which is a massive crystal dragon that's got a pretty big ball sack. We get here from getting through the Duke's archives and into a massive crystal cave where you see this big boy. Starting this boss fight, you see a shiny crystal which you can break and make Seath not invincible, like he's the Ender Dragon from Minecraft. Seath will go around breathing crystal breath at you, and if you get behind him, he'll do some tail attack for which one has hitboxes that are complete bullshit, and getting the sword from Seath's tail is almost impossible to get. The run back is also atrocious. You have to exit the archives, go through a forest with crystal monsters, into a giant crystal cave with invisible pathways, and past crabs which follow you into the damn boss arena. Seath is pretty easy. You just gotta watch out for his crystal breath and AoE. And his ball sack is a pretty good weak point too. At our number 11 spot, we got the Iron Golem. Not to get confused with the Iron Golem from Minecraft. Now that I realize, this game has a lot of Minecraft references. We get here from getting through the god-awful Sin's Fortress to fight this giant dude in some iron armor. And I mean, this guy's a tank. He has moves that deal a lot of damage and has a buttload of health. He does some swings that are easy to dodge and does a grab attack that luckily doesn't throw you off the edge. Getting through Sin's Fortress can be a pretty big pain to get through. It's basically a parkour level dodging the axes. Once you get him down to 3/4 of his health, he starts staggering, giving you an opportunity to do some damage. If you hit him enough times, then he'll fall to his ass. And then if you're lucky, he'll fall off the edge and die. Once you first enter his arena, he does a range attack that mostly always fails to hit because it hits the broken pillar. Then you can just slash at his knees until he dies or falls off the edge, putting this big boy to rest. Coming in at our number 10, and oh my god, this cutscene is something else. Anyway, about the actual boss. We traverse far down to the depths of hell, also known as Blighttown, going through a poisonous river, past a couple Shreks, and then into the arena. Quelaag is a giant fire spider with a very exposed human body at the top. She'll crawl around swinging her sword around and spew lava out of her mouth. This boss is actually pretty tough, with her AI sometimes making strategies to kill you, such as making a ring of lava around you and doing her AoE attack which insta-kills you. You really have to strategize when you're gonna hit, or else you're gonna have a rough time. The first time I played this boss, she tucked me under her legs and freaking farted, which insta-killed me and I rage quit, so be careful of that. And oh, fun fact, Quelaag is Ceaseless Discharge's brother, which is pretty cool lore. Once you beat this boss, you ring the second bell to open up Sin's Fortress, and for being down in Blighttown, this boss is pretty good. Pling, pling, plong. At a number 9 spot, we got the man, the myth, the legend, Gwyn. We get here by placing all the Lord Souls, then opening up the Kiln of the Flame, in which we meet the final boss of the game. Gwyn is a pretty tough boss. He's really fast with his moves and will only give you a millisecond to heal. But to make this boss easier is that he's the only boss you can parry, doing a neat little chunk off of his health. Also, not to mention that this guy is literally the most important character in the game, for lore purposes and game purposes. I don't want to dig in too deep in the lore of Gwyn, mainly because I don't know it. So yeah, Gwyn is a really neat boss. At our number 8 spot, we got the Kings that are made of 4. Probably the most unique boss in the game because there are 4 kings that spawn in that can each individually be killed, while all of them share 1 health bar. Anyway, we get here from getting through New Londo Ruins and jumping down into the Abyss, which the kings are just chilling in. This boss also has one of the most unique boss arenas because it's literally the Abyss. It's just nothing. The kings will swing their sword, fire lasers at you, do an AoE, and a grab attack that reduces the time for another king to spawn in. This boss will literally punish you for taking too long since there can be 4 kings in one area. The strat for this boss is to get Howl's armor from Anor Londo, which is one of the best armors of the game, and just tank every single hit and the kings are basically cooked. This is a really good and unique and hard boss. cracking in at our number 7 is the Sanctuary Guardian. After getting grabbed by Manus himself, which starts at the beginning of the DLC, where we meet the Guardian. This boss takes place in a massive arena filled with water, with the Guardian looking like a lion with angel wings. The Guardian is very aggressive itself, with fast moves and lightning ball spams. There's also a theory where the attacks do more damage in the water, but I don't know why people think that because the arena is basically just water. This boss is a good introduction to the DLC and I quite like it a lot. Alright, now on to one of the most saddest bosses in Dark Souls. It's Sif. The lore behind this dog is just so sad. Sif and its guardian, Knight Artorias, set off an expedition to fight Manus in the Chasm of the Abyss. But Manus' power is just way too strong for the both of them, and then Artorias made its selfless act by protecting Sif in a ring of protection, and Artorias got corrupted by the Abyss, and Sif and Artorias left each other. Anyway, I got way too lost in the sauce. Onto the actual boss. Sif is a very fast dog that holds a sword in its mouth. It'll do some spin attacks and slashes, and that's basically it. Also, this boss arena is pretty cool, with the Graveyard of Swords, which gives it a cool atmosphere. If you stay under Sif's legs, then the dog basically can't do anything because there's no attack to counter it. But one of the most saddest things is when Sif gets low on health, it starts limping and gets weaker as it goes on. Once you defeat this dog that doesn't deserve to be defeated, you get the Covenant of Artorias, which allows you to traverse the abyss so you can fight the Four Kings. Now going into the top 5, we have one of the most iconic fights in the Soulsborne series, the Bell Gargoyles. This boss is the first roadblock for many Souls players, including me. It's just a wave of difficulty that the first 2 bosses don't really get you ready for. The boss catches you off guard because of its difficulty compared to the first 2 bosses. The gargoyle will do some attacks with its halberd and do tail attacks that will take a very large chunk of your health. As if this boss couldn't get any harder, bam, there's another one. I bet the first time for many people this soiled their pants because duo bosses were unheard of. The second gargoyle will mostly spam a fire-breathing attack for the duration of the fight. The first time I beat this boss, I screamed so loud in happiness. And dude, ringing that first bell, it hits different. This boss definitely deserves the top 5 spot. Down to our final 4. We got the big boy Calamite. It's a shame that there aren't many dragon fights in the game, but Calamite takes the cake for the best dragon fight. After getting the blind giant to shoot down this behemoth, we find Calamite chilling down in a massive area. And I think this area is the largest arena in the game actually. We slide down this ladder to find Calamite. This fight can actually be pretty tough. Calamite does some heavy attacks that can do a lot of damage, and has a fire-breathing attack that has some interesting colors. Oh, and one thing, this dash attack is annoying as f***. Definitely the most epic dragon fight in the game if I had to say. Alright, now on to the final 3. At number 3 we got the big boy Manus. I don't care what anybody says, this is the hardest boss in the game. He has the most aggressive gameplay a boss can have in this game, while also having magic to do with it too. We get here by getting through the Chasm of the Abyss, which in my opinion is the most eerie place in this game. You got lit up red eyes, eerie quietness, and literal humanities which look creepy as hell in my opinion. The sound they make is also eerie too. Manus has a second phase where he unlocks the ability to use magic, which absolutely sucks. But this man is an absolute challenge, and that's what I like about this man. He has a creepy build-up, he's a really important character in lore, and he's hard as balls. And also, the combo. This thing has killed me so many times and I hate it so much. This is definitely one of the best bosses in the game. Coming in hot at number 2 is the biggest badass in Dark Souls 1, Knight Artorias. I can't even explain how cool this guy is. Number 1, this guy just looks cool. Number 2, Artorias is a kick-ass name. And 3, he's literally Sif's guardian. When I was going on about that lore rant about Sif, I mentioned that Artorias got corrupted by the Abyss, which made him into this, sadly. This man literally has a broken arm and still manages to on me. This arena takes place in a coliseum, which is also really cool. Artorias is also really aggressive. You'll have to find the best timing to heal. And if this guy can't even get any cooler, one of his attacks is literally front flipping. Artorias will once in a while try to do a buff power up, but if you hit him enough times, it will stagger him out so that Artorias doesn't get buffed. I can go on a full rant about how cool Artorias is, but let's get to our number 1. We are finally here. At our number 1 spot, we have the most iconic dynamic duo in the Soulsborne series, Ornstein and Smo. After getting transported into Anne Orlando, we traverse the castle to find this masterpiece of a boss. When I first saw this cutscene, I thought I was just gonna fight some big boy, but nope! Ornstein pops out of nowhere, striking fear in my soul. Both of them function differently. Ornstein is a fast, spear-wielding dragon slayer that has an attack that I don't quite appreciate. And then you have a Smo, which is a heavy, slow, fat dude wielding a massive hammer which has a charge attack that I also don't quite appreciate. So basically, Ornstein is an awesome badass, and Smo is an awesome fat ass. The pillars in this boss arena are your saving grace, since the pillars block most of their attacks, which is awesome. You can end this fight in 2 ways, by killing Ornstein first and fighting Super Smo, or killing Smo first and fighting Super Ornstein. On my playthrough here, I killed Ornstein first, and Super Smo is really easy to go against. Super Smo is basically Smo, but wields lightning, and has a pretty deadly butt slam. And the freaking music, it's so good. This boss definitely deserves number 1 and will go in my heart as my favorite Dark Souls boss forever. Well, that's the tier list. I hope everyone enjoyed this video because this took a while. Dark Souls is one of my favorite games of all time, and I might make more videos about it. Anyway, leave a comment down below and make sure to smash the like and subscribe button like always. And let me know if I pissed any of you guys off in the comments. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.